I would now like to go over some of the additional functions that can be done with ChemDraw using the menu items. The File menu contains many things from the Object toolbar. We can open new documents, open an existing document, open stationery as we demonstrated in the first part of this video, close, save, print, and apply document settings. One thing that we have not looked at is the nicknames. Many chemicals have abbreviations, and some groups have abbreviations as well. This is the acetyl group, and this is where it is attached to the molecule. And we can see that it's a carbonyl adjacent to a CH3. It is important to know what ChemDraw thinks these nicknames are, because if you use them, you want to make sure that it is compatible with what you're thinking that you're writing down. Sometimes in biology and chemistry, there are the same acronym for two different things. So it's important to know what ChemDraw thinks this acronym is. So we can look through this list, and there are quite a few. See why we can put a cyclohexyl ring onto something. And so let's experiment a little bit with the cyclohexyl and acetyl. What we're going to do is draw a new structure, and it'll be a very abbreviated structure. So I'm going to show, let's show a benzene ring, and we'll put an O acetyl group hanging off of it, and here we'll put a CY. Now, if we use our labels correctly, what we can do is highlight this structure, and under the structure toolbar, we can expand this label. And you see, as long as ChemDraw knows what label that we think it is, it can expand it into the correct groups. So it's important to know your abbreviations and know what ChemDraw thinks the abbreviations stand for. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this structure, and I'd like to introduce one of the more powerful tools under the structure menu. This is convert name to structure. And what we're going to do is draw L-alanine. Now remember, before we drew it all out. However, here we have it, and we can draw it in just a click and typing if we know the name. Now, some of the structures we won't know the names for, so it'll be more convenient to draw them. But if we know the IUPAC name, we can put that into ChemDraw, and it'll generate it for us. Under the Edit menu, we have copy and paste and things like that. There is a copy and paste special, and I will actually go over these in a later tutorial video 2 or 3. So we'll not go over those today. So you can also show the clipboard from here and see what you have on there. Now under the View menu, we've done a few things. We've showed some toolbars. Here, we can also show a crosshair, and if you really would like to align your objects well while you're drawing, you can use the crosshair. And if, say, I want my top edges aligned, well, I can take these structures and use my crosshair. But remember, we can always use the object menu to align our structures as well. So here I could align their middles this way or this way. So the crosshair, it can be useful if you're just trying to lay out things nicely at the outset. We can also show some rulers on either side, and this actually is nicely seen with the crosshair also shown. And you can see where you are on the page and kind of measure your document as you go. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off both of these. Remember the analysis window. If we have a compound, this is particularly useful when you're in the lab. Show the analysis window, and what we get is our molecular formula, mass, molecular weight. We can turn off whatever we want and paste these under our structures, so that's very convenient. And this helps us to set up our notebook, calculate theoretical yields, and things of that nature. Also under the View toolbar is the periodic table window, and I've actually never used this. I usually just type in my elements, but the semi-interactive periodic table, we can go ahead and put elements in our document just by clicking. Also under the View toolbar, we have the Character Map window. Now this, I want to label it as an alpha amino acid. I can do that because I can use the alpha character by viewing my character map window. So here we have our alpha. And now say I would like to type that this is an alpha amino acid. Oh, wow, that looks really strange. Well, the thing with this toolbar is it changes your font to symbol. So let me show you how to work around that. So let's delete that. Let's go ahead and start a new text box, and it'll show up in Helvetica. I'll write amino acid now. If I go back to the beginning, now I can insert my alpha. I'm sorry, that wasn't at the beginning. My cursor is doing something a little funny here, makes it hard to see. There's my alpha, and now I can label this as an alpha amino acid, and I haven't changed my font. So it's nice to insert your symbols later. Under View, you can also turn on your chemical warnings and magnify your document. Now let's examine the Object menu. Here we can apply object settings to individual things in the document. So if we want something in the regular settings and something in ACS settings, we can apply that specifically simply by using our marquee or lasso to highlight the object and apply the document settings. When I draw, I always like to keep my fixed lengths and fixed angles selected. Fixed length was what I was showing earlier in the tutorial, where I draw a bond and it's not going to be any longer unless I find another atom to connect it to, but it'll be this length no matter where I go. I also like the fixed angles because that allows me to just click on a carbon center and draw good bond angles. Here are all the align commands, and so we can select, let me use my marquee. We can select these two objects and align them, left edges, left, right, centers. This is all stuff that we can do with the object toolbar as well. Note that there are key commands for these. These are a little complicated, but if you work with ChemDraw a lot, they're very useful, and I do use the key commands for these. We can also distribute objects. Now we need to have at least 3, so let's go ahead and maybe add pyridine to our structures that we have on our page. And while we're at it, let's just draw a few more so that we can demonstrate a few things. Here's furan. Oh, and let's, for the heck of it, do pyrrole as well. So we have a few objects to work with. Under our object toolbar, we can distribute these horizontally, so they'll fill up the space in between them. Now say we want them to fill the whole page. We can just move this object over here and this object over here. Using this menu, we can align their top edges if we'd like, and then we can distribute them horizontally. You may also distribute vertically. So let's highlight furan for a moment. Under the Object menu, I can add frames to things, brackets, parentheses, etc. So if I want to make this look nice and add my shadow, a shadow box, I can do this rectangle with a shadow, and it'll automatically place it and size it around my object. Remember, that can also be done using this Drawing Elements toolbar. Just as a reminder, under the Object toolbar, we have these flip and rotate functions. Remember that when you flip an object, it will flip the bonds the way you've drawn them, so that actually change the molecule for me. If I want to just rotate an object and keep my stereochemistry the same, I can rotate the object, and it preserves my stereochemistry when it flips the object over. There are also options to rotate and scale objects. Now, rotate, this will allow you to do something besides 180 degrees. And scale, we can scale our object, and let's say we want this one a little bit smaller. We'll scale by 70%. Also remember to click this scale atom labels and settings as well, because that will make your atoms smaller. So let's not do that for the first time. So this gets really tiny, but our atom labels stay very, very huge. So let's go ahead and scale again. Scale by 70%. And scale our atom labels and settings. Now you see they've gotten proportionally smaller and they look a little bit better. They've actually gone down to a 9-point font. Let's go ahead and examine our structure menu at this point. There are a few properties that you can use. Some of the more useful features, I believe, are checking the structure, cleaning up the structure. This one is very nice. So let's go ahead and mess up a structure a little bit. Say we accidentally click on something and distort a structure, or when we are dragging and drawing a bond, we put it in a really weird geometry. These are the types of things we can clean up. So structure, clean up structure, and it'll put this at a much more reasonable bond angle. Here, let's clean up this structure, and it makes it back the way it was. I would like you to also notice that when you have pasted the analysis window here, it will auto-update as you add things. So your molecular weight will change, so you can add pieces on and see that change in real time. Let's see what else we can do under the structure toolbar. There are some things that are very useful. We can add our stereochemistry, but one of the really important things is predicting these proton and NMR shifts. However, we're not going to get to that until a later video. The only other thing that I really think is very important for you to know at this point under this menu is converting a structure to a name. And so this actually has named it with its proper IUPAC name. L-alanine is still accepted in IUPAC, but it gives you the IUPAC name for things. So here, let's go ahead and try that again with pyridine, structure to name. There's pyridine. Let's do something a little bit more complex. We'll add a double bond in here and a chain coming off of 2 positions. There's an isopropyl and an ethyl. Under the structure, we can convert this, under the structure menu, we can convert the structure to a name, and it gives us the IUPAC name, 1-ethyl, 3-isopropyl, cyclohex-1-ene. So you can use this feature to check your organic homework or name very complex molecules that are not easily named using your IUPAC rules, much more complicated, larger structures. Under the text menu, we have a few options here, and I would like to actually just show acetic acid. So here we have acetic acid. If we're not sure what that looks like, we can go to structure, and even with something as simple as this, we can expand our label and it'll show us what that's supposed to be. But here, this is supposed to have a subscripted 3. I'm going to show you how to do this using this text menu. So we can change our style to subscript, superscript, or formula. What I'm going to show you, though, is it's easily done from this menu, so usually I leave this showing all the time. Here is the formula option, here is subscript, and here is superscript. If I click on this formula, it'll go ahead and subscript appropriately for me, and it's usually very good at that. It's a little bit more time-consuming to go through and do everything individually, so it's nice that ChemDraw has this feature. Say I want to draw the hydronium ion. I would need to superscript this plus and subscript this 3, but if I just go to my formula menu, it does that for me, and I can also get that under text. I'm going to show you a little bit about this flushing, and let's go ahead and start with a new structure on the page to show this. And I think I'll just get rid of some of the stuff down here on the page to do so. So here is a naphthalene, and sometimes when we're drawing naphthalenes, they may have 2 substituents pointing straight up right here. Here we'll have an OH, and say a methoxy group is on right here. Notice our labels have run together. So this is also something that you can do from your style toolbar, but let's show you from the menu. Under text, say we want to get this so it doesn't look like it's all run together and there's a nice space here. Under text, we can now flush this right. But unfortunately, it moved the oxygen over. Now the oxygen, this is an ether, so the oxygen should be directly connected here, and the CH3 should be coming off of that. We can remedy this by typing in reverse. So if we show H3CO, now we've shown the same group. We just have to change the direction in which we type it. It's not the natural left to right, since it's now showing it right to left. But that's very useful for cleaning up structures a little bit. Under curves, you can do many of the things that you can do with the arrow and drawing tools. Say I draw a curve on my page, but then I said, oh, that was supposed to be an arrow. Well, in the curves, I can just select this using the marquee just by clicking on it. Full arrow at start. I can put, oh no, a half arrow at start. I can put a half arrow at the end, and so I could change a curve into arrows. Let's go back to the drawing elements. Here we can draw these different shaded objects. Now say we want to put this circle in here, and it's a shaded circle. And then we say, oh, maybe I wanted that to be solid. Well, under curves, I can also fill it, or I can change it to faded and things of that nature. Dashed, I can dash the line around it, but mostly you can find these things here, but if you did do the wrong one and wanted to change it, know that you can do that from that menu as well. Color is fairly self-explanatory and can also be changed in the style toolbar. If I want to show my amino acid, or if maybe it's labeled just in blue to jazz up my drawing a little bit, there we go. We can change individual atoms. If I want to highlight this hydroxyl group in red to show that this is the part that gives up the proton when it creates the Zwitter ion, I can do that. So you can play with color a little bit here as well. There are some options to go online. I have not used this menu much. You can minimize and maximize your window from here as well, and help is fairly self-explanatory. I hope you found this ChemDraw tutorial useful, and happy drawing!